The stone is cold before dawn. Touch it with the palm of your hand, and it tells you something the age has nearly forgotten. Some things become great because they endure. Some things become beautiful because lives were given to them without the promise of applause. A cathedral stone, a library step, a courthouse column, an old bridge worn smooth by generations of feet. These do not hurry. They do not refresh. They do not ask whether the present hour approves. They wait. They bear memory. They tell us that time can be shaped. Before the sun rises, old stone already gives its lesson. It says that human life needs more than motion. It needs form. It needs patience. It needs people willing to build beyond themselves. Outside, the world begins its daily sermon. It glows in the hand. It hums from the machine. It speaks through the feed, the advertisement, the memo, the cheerful voice of endless improvement. It says that every new thing is a step upward. It says that whatever is old must explain itself. It says that memory is a weight, place is a limit, the body is raw material, and the self will be healed as soon as the next device arrives. To move forward is not necessarily to move upward. A man may walk forward into darkness. A household may gain comfort and lose warmth. A city may grow taller and become less humane. A child may become more connected and more alone. A culture may gain power while losing judgment. Even the heart can change in ways that diminish it, while the surrounding world applauds and calls it growth. This is the confusion of the age. It mistakes motion for greatness. Motion is easy. Ascent asks more of us. The body changes when it grows. It also changes when it decays. A tree changes when it puts out leaves. A wound changes when it festers. Time moves through both. Wisdom knows the difference. The human task is to learn that difference again. We were not made to worship the new. We were not made to freeze ourselves in the past. We were made to receive what is good, repair what has been wounded, refuse what hollows the soul, and carry the worthy thing forward with stronger hands. That is the shape of ascent. A culture begins to weaken when it treats inheritance as an embarrassment. It looks at old customs and sees only limits. It looks at old buildings and sees only obstacles. It looks at inherited manners and hears only restriction. It looks at the family table, the neighborhood ritual, the old song, the practiced skill, the father's tool, the grandmother's recipe, the worn path through town, and asks how quickly these things can be replaced. The age speaks often of freedom. Yet much of what it calls freedom leaves men thinner. A life without roots can drift, but drifting is a poor substitute for pilgrimage. A person without obligations may feel light for a moment, but lightness soon becomes loneliness. Even a kite needs a string, otherwise it becomes bright trash in the wind. The soul needs to belong. It needs a home that asks something of it. It needs duties that form it. It needs beauty that raises it. It needs a horizon. When people lose this truth, they begin to praise every alteration as though change itself were noble. The old town square becomes a dead plaza of brushed steel and nervous shrubs. The school loses its memory and gains a vocabulary of fashionable concern. The household loses its table, then wonders why everyone moves through the rooms like a polite tenant. The street loses its porches, and after the porches go, the names of the neighbors soon follow. Decay often arrives wearing the language of improvement. That is one of its better tricks. Yet the answer cannot be a cramped refusal of all movement. A soul that only resists becomes hard. A family that never adapts becomes brittle. A tradition placed under glass becomes a relic, admired by people who have forgotten how to live inside it. Stillness can mimic stability. True stability breathes. Think of an oak. It stands because its roots go deep, yet every spring it dares to become green again. Think of a marriage that has survived hardship. Its vows remain the same, yet the love inside them has grown more patient, more seasoned, more capable of mercy. Think of a craft passed from one hand to another. The method may be old, but the young hand brings it into the present. That is the pattern. Rooted life still grows. A worthy tradition is carried in the hand, the voice, the gesture, the recipe, the tool, the story told at the right hour. It lives when a son learns how his father fixed the hinge. It lives when a daughter sees hospitality practiced before she hears it explained. It lives when children know that the dead remain part of the family's weather, that a grave is not a discarded address, that memory is a duty of love. Tradition weakens when people only admire it. Admiration is easy. recovery costs something. Recovery asks us to take the good thing in hand again, to polish the silver, to repair the door, to learn the song, to restore the habit, to build the house so that the next generation receives more than photographs of what was lost. The future belongs to those who can carry memory without turning it into a cage. There is the higher road. Neither frenzy nor paralysis. Neither the cult of novelty nor the sleep of stagnancy. The higher road is ordered ascent, the patient movement of life toward fuller life. And what is fuller life? It begins simply. Bread on the table, a roof that does not leak, a street where a mother can walk without fear, a bed where an old man can sleep in peace. These things matter because the body matters. Hunger is real. Cold is real. Fear is real. No serious vision of human greatness despises the lower needs. Bread is humble and therefore worthy of reverence in its place. Yet man cannot live at the base alone. He needs a household where love has shape. He needs neighbors whose names carry weight. He needs work that joins his effort to something beyond wages. He needs a place where his absence would be noticed. He needs to hear his own name spoken with affection and expectation. He needs honor earned through duty. Above these things, he needs beauty. Beauty is not decoration. Beauty is order made visible to the senses. It is the soul learning through the eye. It is the body discovering that the world has form. A child entering a beautiful library learns reverence before any book is opened. A family gathered around a well-set table learns that dinner can become gratitude. A city square built with care tells ordinary people that public life deserves dignity. A garden teaches patience because no flower obeys a motivational poster. Beauty does not merely please. It forms. Ugliness forms too. A people surrounded by ugliness begins to expect less from the world and from itself. The room with dead light teaches dead attention. The public building, shaped like a storage container, teaches a secret lesson against majesty. The disposable object teaches a disposable attitude. The endless feed teaches the eye to graze and the heart to forget. A culture cannot feed its people on slop and expect greatness. The soul requires better bread. This is why beauty matters so deeply. It awakens wonder. It gives the person a taste for height. It teaches that existence is more than consumption, more than comfort, more than the management of appetite. Beauty whispers that the world is charged with meaning. It reminds us that the human being was made for more than survival. Without a higher aim, even beauty can curve inward. Taste can become vanity. Luxury can become anesthesia. Art can become self-display. Ritual can become theater. The fine object becomes sterile when severed from gratitude, duty, and shared life. Beauty reaches its proper force when it joins a larger order. The table matters because people gather there. The ring matters because a promise has taken visible form. The door matters because it marks passage from one state of life to another. The song matters because memory has found breath. The public monument matters because gratitude has refused to remain private. This is the majesty of material life. Matter is not trivial. The body is not an accident. Time is not merely something to kill. The home, the street, the table, the tool, and the grave can all become places where meaning touches the visible world. This is what the age forgets when it offers comfort as salvation. Many people today possess marvels that kings could not command. Hot water arrives by turning a handle. Music appears by touching glass. Food crosses continents and lands in a suburban kitchen as though the earth itself had become a servant. A library once guarded by specialists now sits in a pocket beside maps, family photographs, bank accounts, and several dozen invitations to waste the day. The wonder is real. So is the emptiness. Comfort can soothe the body while neglecting the person. It can remove friction while weakening strength. It can offer choice while dissolving commitment. It can place 10,000 images before the eye while training the heart to love nothing long enough to know it. Comfort becomes dangerous when it replaces formation. A child who never waits never learns patience. A man who never works with his hands forgets the intelligence of matter. A family that outsources every shared task loses the small rituals by which love becomes visible. A home full of useful devices can still become poor if no one serves anyone there. The phone may help distant kin speak. It may also teach a family sitting together to vanish from one another. The car may extend opportunity. It may also carry a man each day through ugliness toward work that has no visible connection to love. The machine may spare drudgery. It may also remove the very effort through which gratitude once entered the room. Every gift asks to be governed. Every tool teaches. A sharp blade teaches respect because blood is possible. A musical instrument teaches obedience to time. A garden tool teaches that the earth answers slowly. A screen often teaches interruption before anyone notices the lesson. The question is not whether a tool is clever. Many tools are clever. A raccoon in the pantry is clever, and no sensible man invites him near the bread. The question is what the tool forms in us. Does it train attention or scatter it? Does it deepen memory or replace it? Does it strengthen the household or make each person private inside the same room? Does it leave space for silence? Does it help the soul rise? A tool belongs in the hand. It does not belong on the altar. The age is tempted to worship capacity. It asks whether a machine can do something. A wiser people asks whether the doing is good for the person who uses it. A machine can help a craftsman build something beautiful. It can also flood the world with gray pudding for the eyes. The difference lies in the end. Tools must serve life. Life must serve meaning. This order protects us from both fear and foolishness. We need not flee every discovery. We need not kneel before every discovery. We can receive with gratitude what helps the person become more fully human. We can refuse with peace what trains the soul downward. This same discipline applies to change itself. A gardener governs change. He does not hate growth. He loves it enough to prune. He cuts, waters, grafts, waits, and watches. If he worshipped growth in every direction, the garden would become a thicket, then a habitat for creatures with poor manners and too many legs. So it is with culture. Some changes bless life. Clean water reaches a town and children live. Medical skill spares a mother. An old building marked for demolition is restored, and a street remembers its own face. A family gains a tool that relieves needless strain, leaving more room for the evening meal and the quiet hour afterward. Other changes arrive like termites wearing ceremonial robes. A feast becomes a transaction in disposable packaging. Courtship thins into appetite managed by a screen. Public ceremony becomes performance and loses the gravity that once steadied a people. A neighborhood loses its porches, then its names, then its memory. Wisdom is replaced by the take, that tiny paper hat worn by opinion when it wants to feel tall. Silence is crowded out until the soul can no longer hear itself breathe. All of this is movement. Very little of it is assent. The discipline is sifting. We must ask what a change makes possible. We must ask what it damages. We must ask whether it deepens reality or thins it. We must ask what it does to children, to friendship, to marriage, to craft, to memory, to the quiet places where the soul learns to listen. Fashion hates these questions. Markets often evade them. Committees bury them under language so thick that even the nouns need lanterns. Ask anyway. A serious life asks anyway. Change should serve order as timber serves a house. Raw material has no final shape until a builder gives it one. Time hands every generation its material: grief, discovery, crisis, birth, failure, opportunity, wound, and gift. We do not choose the age in which we live. We choose whether to receive it as stewards or as consumers. A steward thinks of the dead and the unborn. A consumer thinks of appetite. A generation becomes noble when it refuses to treat itself as the center of time. It stands between graves and cradles. It receives, repairs, and passes forward. It says to the dead, "We remember." It says to the unborn, "We prepared." It says to the future, "We were clumsy, but we tried to be faithful." That is the moral shape of change. Servant. Material. Burden. Gift. Never master. The first work is humble. Make ordinary life possible again. Let the child play outside. Let the old woman walk to the market without fear. Let the shopkeeper open his door in the morning with peace in his chest. Let the mother bring children to the park without scanning the place like a weary field commander carrying a diaper bag. Safety is the floor beneath higher life. Fear drags the soul downward. It narrows attention. It makes beauty seem remote and gratitude difficult. A household under threat thinks first of survival. A neighborhood under disorder loses the habits of trust. A town where public spaces become hostile has surrendered part of its common life. Order is mercy for the innocent. This order begins close to the ground. It begins in the house that holds together under strain. It grows on the street where people recognize one another. It strengthens when fathers remain present, when mothers are supported in formation, when schools teach instead of confuse, when trades are honored, and when public spaces are shaped for real people rather than abstract populations. Belonging grows there. Modern loneliness often hides inside constant contact. A person may receive messages all day and remain unknown. He may laugh at jokes from strangers while no one nearby notices his absence. He may live in a building full of people and share a wall with lives he will never enter. Belonging requires rooted obligation. A neighbor is someone who can inconvenience you. A friend is someone whose grief may alter your evening. A household is the first school where love arrives with chores attached. A community becomes real when the people inside it carry one another's names. This is how trust returns. Not through slogans, through repeated presence, through meals carried to the sick, through borrowed tools returned, through children corrected by adults who care enough to risk being disliked for 7 seconds, through old stories retold until the young know who they are, through promises kept when keeping them costs something. Civilization is built by such people. The builder is anyone whose life adds weight to the common good. A mother who keeps a household from dissolving into noise. A father who bears responsibility without turning inconvenience into theater. A teacher who gives children real knowledge. A craftsman who trains a younger hand. A neighbor who notices absence. An artist who refuses ugliness. An old woman who remembers every wedding, funeral, feud, reconciliation, and casserole across 40 years. She may look harmless. She is an archive with a handbag. These people build the invisible architecture. They make ascent possible. A culture that honors builders grows stronger. A culture that burdens them while flattering wreckers chooses weakness. Mercy remains sacred in any civilized order, but mercy must be joined to wisdom. To help the weak is noble. To enthrone the destructive is madness wearing a soft voice. Trust must be guarded. The locked door is often a monument to lost trust. Sometimes the lock is prudent. People are fallen, in the plain everyday sense that anyone who has chaired a neighborhood meeting already knows. Prudence is cheaper than replacing the window. Even so, no one should mistake universal suspicion for health. A society where every ordinary act requires defensive calculation has slid down the ladder. Repair begins close. In the daily places where people can still know one another by name. At a table, on a street, beside a workbench, across the fence from a neighbor whose grief would change your afternoon. There is no shortcut. Shortcuts in moral life usually lead to a man with a brochure. The work is smaller than vanity wants, and larger than cynicism believes. A dinner hour recovered from hurry. A Sunday afternoon kept free from the tyranny of errands. A child hearing the name of a great-grandfather and asking what sort of man he was. A modest home made beautiful by lamplight and order. A phone left outside the room like a tiny heretic. An old man asked to tell the story again. A young person choosing covenant over performance. A school where children are taught that truth can arrive clothed in beauty. A town planting trees whose full shade belongs to another generation. These are civilizational acts. They do not look grand to the world because the world has forgotten how greatness usually enters. Greatness often arrives quietly. It comes as fidelity. It comes as repetition made meaningful. It comes as a mother singing in the kitchen when no one applauds. It comes as a father rising early. It comes as a craftsman sanding the same edge until it is right. It comes as a teacher staying after class with the child who nearly understood. It comes as a young person learning to say thank you before desire has become a tyrant. The world wants spectacle. Greatness often begins with hidden faithfulness. Man does not live by comfort alone. Comfort matters. Bodies are real. Hunger, cold, danger, and exhaustion are not romantic. Yet comfort alone cannot satisfy the creature who longs for meaning. A full stomach in an ugly world still leaves a person diminished. A safe town without beauty remains unfinished. A prosperous life without purpose becomes a polished room with no windows. The far horizon of ascent is beauty and spirit, understood as the hunger for meaning, reverence, and depth. Beauty gives visible form to order. It teaches before words arrive. A child entering a beautiful library learns that knowledge deserves silence. A family gathered at a well-set table learns that the meal is more than intake. A city square built with proportion tells the passerby that public life has dignity. A handwritten letter teaches that attention can become a gift. Matter carries meaning. Wood and stone are never merely materials when a beautiful building rises from them. Gold is more than shine when it marks honor. Bread is more than food when received with gratitude. Water is more than liquid when it gathers memory around a family table, a public fountain, or a grave washed clean after rain. The visible world can bear invisible meaning because human beings are meaning-making creatures, and matter is the language through which we learn to love what lasts. Creation, in the broad human sense, is gift. Matter can be honored. The body can learn dignity. Time can become memory. Beauty ordered toward a higher good becomes offering. A table matters because life gathers there. A letter matters because attention has taken form. A ring matters because promise has become visible. A song matters because memory has entered breath. Any account of human ascent that forgets reverence remains too small. The summit is not comfort. The summit is not novelty. The summit is not wealth. The summit is not power. The summit is a people secure enough to build, rooted enough to remember, skilled enough to make beauty, humble enough to repair its own faults, and strong enough to hand forward an inheritance greater than the one it received. This is the height. The word advancement must be rescued from its counterfeit versions. True advancement is the rising fulfillment of human life ordered toward meaning. It begins with the body and rises through the household. It passes through work, honor, trust, and beauty. It reaches toward reverence, where every lower good is gathered into a larger vision of life. By this standard, many celebrated changes reveal themselves as decline. A device that weakens attention has declined in its human effect, whatever marvels its makers boast. A public place that abandons beauty has declined, even if the committee congratulates itself on being current. A household that loses the table has declined, even if every member has a better screen. A city that becomes unsafe has declined, whatever its skyline may announce. By the same standard, many modest recoveries become signs of ascent. A table reclaimed from hurry. A room made beautiful. A skill taught patiently. A promise kept. A silence protected. A child formed in gratitude. A grave visited. A song sung with the whole chest. There is no need to despise small beginnings. Seeds are small. Infants are small. Candles are small before the room receives their light. The modern age would dismiss them all for lacking scale, which is one more reason the modern age should be asked to sit quietly until it recovers its manners. The age will continue to confuse motion with greatness. Let it tire itself. The work before us is quieter and stronger. Make the near things whole. Raise the far things into view. Shape matter with reverence. Pass memory through living hands. Govern tools. Master change. Recover beauty. Turn comfort into hospitality. Let the home become a school of love. Let public life become worthy of the people who must live inside it. The stone is still cold before dawn. Then the sun rises. Light touches the carved figures. It moves through glass, across the floor, over the worn places where generations have stood, waited, mourned, vowed, learned, and lifted their eyes. Nothing there is frozen. The building is alive with disciplined time. Stone, craft, memory, and human hope have been gathered into one upward gesture. That is what change looks like when it has been mastered. That is what tools look like when they have served. That is what tradition looks like when it breathes. That is what human life looks like when it ascends. The next stone is waiting. Lift it with care. A grand world awaits.